Just turn and stand, please. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'd like to call the meeting to order at 6:35. And the recording is on. The first announcement we have here is that the executive session has been postponed due to a scheduled conflict. So we will actually do those things that we can do in the meantime to fill up this half hour. So that means that the interview for the Cultural Council, I'm assuming, is not here yet. I don't see Margaret out there. So we can start with approval of minutes.
I did not include any minutes tonight.
Okay, so we're done with that. Signatures, payroll warrant.
It's over here.
Okay.
Payroll warrant?
Warrant.
Yes, I do. Okay.
And she can just read it from the minutes and then we can start signing it there. Go down this way. Jackie, would you like to read that out, please?
Yes, sir. Payroll warrant P12-7, $169,667.11.
Is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
We have a second?
Second.
In favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. Next one, please.
A bill warrant W12-8, $69,082.96.
Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second? Okay, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. So is there a signature page there, Mike?
Yep.
That's the bill warrant?
Yes.
Okay.
Good.
Okay, this is the bill warrant coming your way.
Are we missing? No, it's only four of us.
Right, just four of us tonight. Okay, so then we have PCF personnel change forms and personnel request forms. This actually is done. This rest of it. Back to Reggie.
PCFs are being reviewed by Finance Committee,
Right now, okay.
and there is a disability form in your signature folder.
Right.
It's in the envelope. Yeah.
Okay, so this is signed by an MD, and I'm not going to give the person's name. I guess, you know?
I think the best thing would maybe just pass it amongst ourselves.
Yeah. Okay, and then we will take a vote on whether or not we will grant the disability. Okay. A disclosure form, Reggie? That's
Nothing at this time.
okay. One-day license is nothing at this time. This is the Ides of August where things get pretty slow. Town owner agreements with Pioneer Valley Planning Commission are also in the signature.
You know, just on this, I forget, is it ours a 6-month policy of disability, or how long is it?
6 months and 12, but it's renewable.
Okay. Because this has the potential, I mean, to be long-term.
Yes, it certainly does.
This person was out.
Yeah,
back.
yeah.
That happened a few years ago with the person in the
Yeah.
secretary's office, and it was, my recollection was it's 6 months every 12. But how do you start and stop at 12
Yeah.
months?
My memory is 6 months, and I certainly don't object to this, but I don't know how long he was out. They were out on one already. Do we know? Is there any way we can find the dates on that tonight? I mean, I don't have a problem with it, but I think we got to follow the technical rules.
Okay. Okay, so while we're looking at so we have here then, these are some town owner agreements with the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission, and this is financial warrant. And this actually is funded by a grant, the Mass MDHCD, the Mass Department of Housing and Community Development. So we're being requested to approve the disbursement of the funds. And there's at least one here, two here. I'll give you those numbers. City town owner agreement. Okay, those are town owner agreements. So the first one is in the amount of $4,277.38. Roughly 60% completion on the housing needs assessment, which we share with Granville, Blandford, and Montgomery. The next one is $4,120.31 for the Southampton Community Development Fund program.
These we've already,
We've approved these, and the funding comes from state grants. That's my awareness. Is that correct? Yeah.
So we need to sign these in order to pay the bill.
Right.
Move to approve.
We have a second?
second.
And those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Today's the 23rd. Okay, over to you. Come back. Okay, and then this town owner agreement, it needs to be signed. And this, frankly, I don't know, we own the town. There you are. Reggie, do you know anything about this?
Unfortunately, I don't know all the details.
I don't either, but this is a property. Mike, have you seen any of this before? I'm just not familiar with it.
Part of that program, I believe, from PPC, the rehab program.
Rehab program. Yeah. We've had these, numerous ones of these before.
Yep.
Do you sign this?
Well, I need a vote.
Vote on it.
One's for 18, one's for 25.
There's one more of those. Coming your way. Are
This
these
is-
routine then, or?
Yeah, these are on behalf of the Community Development Office. We'll make a deferred loan payment to the owner of up to $18,000. First, provided the owner first makes matching grants in an amount of 0. And this is to bring the property into compliance, Chapter 11.
Okay, do you feel like making a motion to approve those? Or
So moved.
do we have a second? Motion's been made.
Could you repeat the motion?
Sure, the motion has been made to sign, to execute the city-town owner agreements, which are under the mass rehab housing plan. Slow down for a minute here while we absorb that.
They done all the floors? Have they done all of the floors now, or they still got more to do?
Just the rooms, the offices.
What do you think, Mike?
I came in last week, and I was at a personnel policy board, and I came in and saw they look nice. Which is disappointing, because they didn't look this nice when the contractor gave them to us.
Yeah, give them a tour. See what they should look like.
Which probably means that he didn't do them the way they were supposed to be done. A lot different. Senior center floor looks good, too.
So can you break that down to what the essence of that?
Mike, could you do that? These are community development
Yeah,
offices.
they're grant programs that improve housing. We've had a number of these over the years. PVPC, I think, supervises the program. We're on it as the primary town, as I recall, and there's I can't remember all the towns. Are these even in Southampton?
Yeah, Montgomery is one of them. Southampton Road, Montgomery.
Yeah, and Montgomery's in part of, but we're the main town, and we have to sign our approval on all of the disbursements.
So grants for rehab, housing rehab.
Yeah.
Okay, so the motion's been made. We would need a second.
Second?
Those in favor? Aye.
The only thing is, it's been so long since we've started
Now, we
approving.
also have
We should have a
to
refresher on what that's.
Sign that we have signed.
Sign.
Yeah, but I mean, what the program's supposed to accomplish or something.
We can both go to Reggie.
And I just mentioned to Reggie that this program's been around so long, and it's been so long since we signed one of these. I'd like a refresher course on the grant and what our responsibilities and their responsibilities are.
So these actually are, excuse me, there are 2 more is what it is.
Oh, there's 2 more?
Yeah.
They usually come in piles.
They come in that way.
Yeah, I mean, they usually come in as a pile. Yeah, this is 50 Old Westfield Road, Granville, for $35,000, and College Highway, Southampton. College Highway, Southampton, for $35,000. Yeah, so this is 2 more.
Yes, so we would need a motion.
Move to approve those 2.
Okay, a
Oh,
motion.
maybe this explains the transmittal.
Those are just cover letters or not?
Yeah, one goes to the 17th, which I think are those, and that goes with the 2 for the 15th.
Right. It's been made to also approve these 2 city-town owner agreements. One is in the amount of, both in the amount of $35,000 as supervised by the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission and ourselves as the key town area. Mike has.
All second.
Okay, those in favor? Okay, so back to the disability report. We will need to vote on that as well.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to wait until and I have no problem with the disability, but there are technical rules in that disability program, and I would ask that we find out when this person was last out on disability to make sure that, I'm sure he's been qualified, but I'd like to know for a fact that we're not, we have to get a personnel book, but it's 6 months and a year, and I'm not sure that the technical aspects. I know he was out before.
Okay.
I would suggest we table it until such time as we make sure that technically it's appropriate.
The motion's been made to table this request for disability. Do we have a second for that?
Hearing a long pause, I'd say I withdraw my motion.
Okay, the motion's been withdrawn. Do we have another motion with respect to this item, the approval of the disability?
I just would like to know when we would talk to somebody personnel. Because obviously his sickness is very serious. And I hate to, our next meeting is not for another 2 weeks, right? When can we resolve that? Can we
Do you have a
resolve
personnel
that
policy
quicker?
book out there? I don't think, mine's not in the car. My point was that, will we know the dates of the prior disability, Reg? Reg, will we know the dates of his prior disability? Do we have a folder in the office with his prior?
I believe the treasurer's does.
Do we ask to have that at the same time?
Okay, we're going to do some immediate research on this. Okay, we've done the town owner agreements with PVPC. Housing needs assessment and community development. I don't
That's
see
those.
it.
That's what you've been, those.
Well, those are listed here as town owner agreements.
Oh, sorry.
So let me check and see what we have. Historical commission, correspondence.
But
Okay, so I'll ask Reggie when she comes back. I don't see anything with respect to housing needs assessment.
Well, wasn't that bills that we paid, the 4,000 and?
I think we did that.
Yeah.
Okay, we did it.
Yeah.
Right by me.
We just signed all that, yeah.
Okay, interim town administrator's report. She's not here. Other business and announcements. And are you the person with respect to the Cultural Council? All right, you're here a little early, but I believe we can talk with you. Please come up. Is that table over there? Yeah. Pleasure to see you here this
Thank
evening.
you.
I'm Jess Dodds, and the other
Hi, I'm Margaret Larson. Nice to meet you.
pleasure. So, are you a new Southampton person?
My husband and I moved here from California about 4 or 5 years ago.
Okay.
And then we own a cabinet making school in East Hampton, the New England School of Architectural Woodworking. So I got very involved with the arts community in East Hampton and was recruited to join their cultural council, which I sat on for several years. And then they kind of merged with their East Hampton City Arts, and it was more of a time commitment than I wanted at that point, because they also manage their monthly art walks and a lot of other things, but I'm still committed to the goals of the Cultural Council. And so when I heard that you were looking for people here, that seemed to be a good fit since I live here too. So
Sure,
that made
absolutely.
sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, we certainly are looking for people, willing volunteers to keep these programs and councils that we have moving forward. And this town is involved, of course, in its history, being an historical place in its own right, as well as moving culture forward too. Good. All right. Does anybody on the board have any questions too for Margaret?
So in California, did you work on similar areas or committees?
Well, I worked for an ad agency there. I worked for Hewlett-Packard for a long time and traveled all over. And then once I kind of settled in Sacramento, I got very involved with the arts community there. And we didn't have really a similar organization that was state-run, but we had local groups. And so I was very involved with a local art museum. I sat on the board there, and was probably instrumental in some of the art walks that we created there. So I used to be a high school teacher, so it's so important to me to provide that education and the access to the arts, the visual arts, spoken word, theater, all of those things. And so, that's one way. The Cultural Council is one way to do that. I'm pretty involved. I'm a parent. I'm a Norse parent, so I'm pretty involved at the school too, and that's important too.
Sure, that's great.
Sounds like you'll make a great contribution.
I hope so.
So have you met with Ann Byant too?
Well, we've had a lot of email conversations, and we think we recognize each other from Norris, but we're not sure. And I thought she would, I imagine she'll probably be here right when I'm.
We just got back from vacation.
Yeah. So I think it'll be
Maybe her. She has 2 daughters.
your children.
Okay. Mike, do you have any questions for Margaret?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I have a question.
Sure.
How do you think the arts can improve? What are some of your ideas of?
Well, I think mostly it's letting people know that there is a thriving arts community here. Particularly as someone who's new to the area, it was harder probably than I expected to understand what was happening in the town until my son started going to Norris, and then I started meeting people and getting more involved. But it wasn't as apparent to me that we had a thriving arts community at all. And so I think being able to fund more events, whether it's just offering more access or educational opportunities or providing grants for kids to go to the theater, I think all those can help that idea of a community really here that respects the arts. Because, particularly being a former high school teacher, I think sometimes that's the way you reach a child, that you may not otherwise find that child through academics or something like that. And so, that's important to me. There were many children that I found, if we only had continuing arts programs in the schools, that they might find an outlet for, some of the things they needed to do. And so, I'm hoping that we get more, I think, as we advertise the council more and that advertise the grant process, that we can get more people who are applying for the grants that can then provide the access, then, come around again and get more grants. And so I'm hoping that that's what it does here.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
Wonderful approach, absolutely. There's some advertising and marketing that needs to go on, of course. And certainly the background that you bring. Here's Ann right now. Hi, this is Margaret Larson.
I know I've seen you in Norris.
glad to see that. We're in the process of
Chat interviewing you.
reviewing about her ideas and thoughts, and certainly has some wonderful background, not only as a high school teacher, but also working in woodworking architecture now in East Hampton. Also, a lot with the arts and the advertising.
Wow. Sounds like someone I'd love to have.
When you say the arts, does that include music?
Oh, yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Visual and, because I know we do
I think
have.
so too, but this would be the one to control. Thanks, George. We need the dates now.
When you said there's a private arts community, you need to introduce that to us too, because I don't know about it.
Yeah. And one of the things I was saying is that when moving here and being new, I didn't know about the arts community in Southampton, so.
Northampton,
Yeah.
but even Southampton too. Good. You learn by being a board member?
You must have seen you coughing the last time.
It's a two-way flow. All right, do you have any questions for us?
No, I don't. You know, being on the, I probably would have more if I had never been on a cultural council, but I think, you know, that helps having had that experience and, you know, understanding how to make the priorities and that. Hi, Reggie.
Okay. Well, then we would simply need a motion.
Move to appoint.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Those in favor of appointing Margaret Larson to the cultural council, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Welcome, you're
Thank
on.
you. Thank you. Thank you very much. That was easy. Well, I know. But at least I had experience going through earthquakes before today.
This was nothing though, right?
People said I brought it with me. Yeah. No, really, I just, you know, I felt it in the floor of our building. I was at one cottage on the first floor, and I felt it, and I thought, that's an earthquake. And then I thought my husband would laugh at me. You know, he's from Minnesota. He'd say, no, it's something else. And sure enough.
It's a very rare occurrence.
Right, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Good to see you, Ann.
Do you want to come back to that disability issue?
Yep, okay, so we're going to go back to the disability
You
issue.
have to get
Which brings us to a point that this employee would be covered by a union contract, not the town personnel policy bylaw.
So the funding for the disability payment.
But it's in the union contract. Perhaps, maybe we should do, how can we do this? This warrants a discussion, but not the public purview.
Like executive sort of session.
Yeah, or,
It's not. Okay.
because I think because it's very hard to discuss these issues without saying places, persons, and people, and identify the person,
Which we don't want to do.
which we don't want to do.
Are we supposed to have an executive session tonight?
We were, but that was postponed, so what we can do, actually, I can authorize an executive session, I believe, at the end.
Does that fall under number 3? Oh, no, I don't think we can, because don't we have to list the topics on the agenda? And I only listed the topic, that one topic. I did not list the other.
We can list it in for the next meeting as best we can do.
Did we find out anything from the personnel?
Well,
I know we have some information that we should share. Okay, so,
well, it's one paragraph, unless we pass this amongst ourselves. It's the bottom paragraph.
yeah, that's the same as we thought.
But we don't know this employee's period of prior,
And that's being worked out.
because we run into, the question has always come up, what's 26 weeks within a year? What's the year mean?
Which could be the first 26 weeks, last 26 and the first again, so. But we in a sense, well, okay.
But if the disability has been within the last, certainly if it was in the last 12 months, we'd have some sort of problem. If the past disability extended into some time within 12 months of now.
What did the date say on the letter?
They don't, except that this is a probable return to work October 24th of this year.
But we need to know when the disability was paid the last time, because it's 26 weeks within the last year. And that's always driven us crazy. What does that mean?
On a year here. So our options would seem to be to table this, to get some opinions.
Are they still looking for it? They're still looking for it in Treasurer's office,
Or we can put it aside for now.
but that's the union contract down there, so.
Okay.
Well, you're gonna hold on to that. All right.
So then, interim town administrator's report, which is the next page over in your packet. Well, thanks, Reggie. This is well done. It's gives us actions. Oh, it's a lot of pages.
Sorry.
That's all right. It's fine.
I don't like this new town administrator for the last item that says in your packets to take home.
It's the red.
And I just realized that this is the packet to take home.
This one here?
Yeah.
You have homework.
The last town administrator never gave us homework.
Well, it's what it takes to make a town move along, but you're right. It's good bedside reading.
So we're supposed to have somebody here from historical, so we can't tackle item number 1.
Right. So we can move. Matt, you want to take that home, that report home as well? We can move on to other agenda items, or?
Well, is there more here?
The only other vote we need is none at this point. Yes, we do need a vote on IBS. That's in the agenda.
Question, is the board member interested in holding an all-board meeting in the beginning of September?
When was our last one? It's been a while.
It's been a long while.
I would say yes.
Yeah, I won't be here myself on September the 6th, but
Well, what, do we have an agenda for September the 6th? I suggest we pick a short night where we don't have a lengthy agenda.
I don't know what page it is on your packet there, but it's under upcoming select board meetings. There are some tentative
On your report.
scheduled.
Oh, on the bottom here. Well, you've got that actually green with you.
20th of September or the 4th of October?
Oh, now you got this on the, no, here, on here, you've got a detailed agenda on the bottom of your page.
Upcoming select board. 9/6.
Okay, sure. Well, I don't have to be there.
Well, you don't have to, but we sure would like you to be. Doug runs it.
That's fine. $9:20. So that's just the bottom there, the 8 or so items on the bottom of the page so far. That would seem to make sense to have the all-board meeting then. It looks like a light night.
September 6th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you guys want to vote on that, or just,
Move for the September 6th all board meeting.
Second.
okay, in favor?
Aye.
Okay, good.
Coming back, Reggie, I've been seeing a lot of back and forth, if I might, Jess, on the senior center. I hate to, where are we in a couple of words? They still won't move
Put it
in.
into a couple words, yeah,
They still won't move in.
correct.
Because
Because one of the things is the ceiling tiles. That's one of their concerns, is they don't want to be in the way when the tiles are still not up in the ceiling. They
There's
have
2
not-
tiles
I don't think there's 2.
in the closet over there.
No, the whole room, the office.
The whole office? Well, we're still paying $75 a month for that trailer out there.
So we had a meeting.
Whether they move in or not, I'd like to see that trailer emptied and bring the stuff inside.
Yeah. Ed talked about that and said he was willing to wash it and put it inside. And he doesn't think that the volume of it would be in the way. We're just waiting to go ahead on that. But Reggie and I and several other folks, fire chief, plumbing inspector, building inspector, Jackie, so it's not an open meeting or meeting. Josh was there as well, and fire chief with him. We had a meeting this afternoon to try to get a coming together of the various ideas, and we're running up against some needed variances with respect to the plumbing. Jackie's husband has offered to install the plumbing. However, we're discovering also that, again, we need, because of this, notice this particular building is not a residence, therefore it is something other than a residence.
Even it's a room.
Right, but it has a different set of plumbing codes, so you can't install residential equipment in a non-residential building.
Yeah, it has to go from the board in Boston.
Is it Boston?
Well, what if we didn't do the kitchen? What if the kitchen was just a meeting room? Why can't we,
Well, it won't give us the variance if we don't do that, so.
why can't it just be a meeting room?
They have to have a kitchen.
Huh? They don't have a kitchen, but I'm saying, why can't it be a meeting room?
They won't move in.
Well,
Because
then let's empty the trailer and save the $75 a month,
Right.
and then let them not move in. But let's get the trailer out of there.
Okay, so we'll talk to Ed about that. Okay.
Because, I mean, the stuff is out there for a year now at $75 or more a month. Lord knows whether it's leaking or not in that trailer.
Right. What's happening here, Michael, is that each time we move, we seem to run into a different bureaucratic hurdle.
Well, I understand that, which is why
But at the same time, there's some back and forth between the Building Reuse Committee and the Select Board and the various people who have the stakeholders in this. And there's some folks, frankly, I'll say, are standing on principle, and as I said today in the meeting, we could win the battle and lose the war, was my particular observation, and I feel pretty strongly that that's kind of what's going on. People are standing on principle that the contractors have to pay, but what Reggie's doing is collecting receipts, for example, for this floor, and we're just going to withhold that money and say, this is why we're doing it, which to me seems to be a very effective way of getting the thing done.
But I mean, for the senior center, right now they're meeting in a room that has no kitchen, but they're upstairs in the, and rightfully so, complaining because they're working in an office or in a room that has other stuff in it. When we have a big room down here that has, if they don't use the kitchen, is a meeting room.
Yep. Well, there are certain aspects to the meeting room that they want to see completed.
Well, I would like to see us empty the trailer, bring the stuff in, and clean it up. Lord knows whether it's still good out there after all this time.
That's true, you're absolutely right. That's-
We have, comment down here.
I was going to say, part of the problem is the septic tank and how large it isn't in order to accommodate a commercial kitchen. And originally, the kitchen was not one of the parts of the building to be included.
It was an option.
An option that we didn't choose and didn't pay
Right.
for. So what we're trying to do is appease the seniors, because they did have a kitchen somewhat. They didn't have a dishwasher in the original Old Town Hall. The problem is that Ed Colley, who's absolutely right in saying he's trying to protect the septic tank and not get any grease or have a problem with that tank with any cooking that's done. And maybe inadvertently somebody might put something down there, which is a problem.
Which we already had with the contractor.
But we were talking about having it cleaned out 3 times a year, just in case if that were to happen. So, I mean, if we can get from Boston right on variance on plumbing to put in the appliances that they've bought, excluding the dishwasher, because that would stress out the septic tank too. But a 3-bay sink, and a hand washing sink, so that the seniors could wash their sink, but their menu would be restricted by the health board. So they couldn't make anything that's greasy, and use paper plates. So there's a way to do this, but we have to get clearance from Boston, first of all, for the plumbing. Because Pat Roberts and my husband are not gonna hang their license or okay anything that will, they'll have a problem with later on.
But I'm putting, let's say, for instance, we never get a kitchen in there.
But it's possible.
I'm not stopping that possibility. I'm just saying we have a room that could be used, that's not being used. If we never get a kitchen, if you never get the variance and we never get a kitchen in there, what are we going to do with it? We're going to leave that empty for the next 20 years?
It's a separate issue.
Right, so I'm saying, let's start using the room and not the kitchen.
Reggie and I are working on that, on getting some folks in to paint it. We're going to do it sort of an in-run.
And then empty that trailer, get the stuff in there, and if they choose not to use it, so be it.
Yeah, there were a few other things.
There were a few other, that's correct.
Why they don't want to move in.
That's correct.
I mean, it's painting, it's some ceiling tiles.
Well, there's issues with some doors.
Right, so,
Well, I mean, there were complaints, but right now, we're down to a very small area of painting, cleaning the bathrooms, as I recall, on the ultimatum list.
And the weight of the doors, because some of them are really tough for seniors and, healthy and younger.
Well, and that's a contractor issue.
But, I have a problem opening some of these doors are really heavy. They have to be adjusted. So we have to get the contractor, and Ed said there was a gentleman that will come in and do that, to fix the doors.
James Fleming.
James Fleming, yeah.
That's a contractor issue, the door openers. If that
We
was,
came in and did that pro bono already on 30-something doors already, but these other doors need some further refinement. So I hear what you're saying. Again, we're working on this, but again, we're also working our way through some...
I'm just putting the kitchen aside.
Yeah, fine.
Put the kitchen aside, let's stop the bleed. I know it's only $75 a month, but it's been $7,500 so far out there. Or $750 rather, $750. And the stuff has been sitting there in those trailers and notorious for leaking. All that stuff may be no good at this point in time.
Absolutely.
I have a suggestion for the material in the trailers. A lot of the students at the high school need to have volunteer hours.
Yeah.
And we could contact them and ask them if we can get some kids to come down here. In order to graduate, they need to have those hours.
College applications.
But,
Okay.
my point is let's get, this is getting so frustrating.
I see that.
I'm,
There's a meeting scheduled, as it says on the bottom of the first page of the
Right.
agenda, 29th at 2 p.m. And I'm going to try to get there myself also to interact with the building reuse committee to do what we need to do to get this done.
I made my point.
Your point is certainly shared by a lot of people. People are hanging on principle. Okay, moving on then.
Wait a minute, I'd like to make a motion
Okay.
to have the board, ask the board in Boston, the plumbing board, if we can get a variance, the proper, send a letter.
File for a variance.
Right.
You need, I'll make the motion that we file for a variance for the senior center kitchen with what board in Boston?
It's the plumbing board, I can get the, I'll give it to
With the
Reggie.
appropriate board in Boston.
Right.
Who's gonna write it, who's gonna send it, who's gonna phrase it?
I'll get the information from my husband and make sure that we address it properly.
All right, I make that motion.
Give it a second? Okay, those in favor? Aye. Everyone, thank you, Jackie, for doing that. Okay, so we're still holding on that other issue, and I misunderstood housing needs assessment. We did that in spite of myself. We need to vote, and Bob Kozub is here right now. Bob, do you want to come up to talk about I'm assuming those are bids on the Clark Chapman House? Thank you.
It's the old schoolhouse, not the Clark Chapman, it's the old schoolhouse.
The school, not the Clark Chapman House.
I'm sorry.
The schoolhouse.
I meant to say schoolhouse.
I presume, Reggie, they have copies of,
I just provided the file in front of them. I did not make the copies, but it's in their town administrator report.
okay. Background, this is the second time we've been out for bid, because the first time, the low bidder did not submit the proper paperwork. I would assume that part of the package that you have includes the specs and the original bid request. We received 2 responses this time to the ad, and the low bid was a firm in Webster, Mass, WPI Construction. They came in at $24,700, and a second bid, J.D. Rivet Company in Springfield, came in at $31,575. The 24/7 was kind of in line with what the previous bid had resulted in. WPI Construction submitted 3 references along with their bid, which I have checked all of. The number 1 reference was a job that they did in 2009 in Bedford, Mass. on a railroad station, which is on the National Register of Historic Places. They found that the work performed, it was a $110,000 job. The work performed met all the prerequisites, and the follow-up was fine. The second reference was from a school in Worcester, which was a $105,000 job in 2011. Roofing and flashing and replacement, and I spoke to a school administrator there, and they were more than satisfied with the result of what happened there, except that they said they were a little bit weak on paperwork. And I said, does that mean they didn't submit their bill in time? And he said, yeah, kind of like that. I said, good. And the third reference was a fire department in North Andover in 2009, a $75,000 job. And I spoke to the chief there, and he was, matter of fact, he emailed me back in writing that everything was fine there. So our we voted, we had a meeting on the 11th after the opening of the bid, and the Historical Commission voted that WPI Construction was an acceptable contractor. Unanimously, we voted that way, and we leave it up to you.
Two questions. When did we have a bid opening here?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And second, what line item is paying for the roof? Is it coming out of?
CPA.
Oh, CPA.
Quick question I have, is this subject to prevailing wages then? Do you know?
Yes.
Okay,
That made a huge difference.
Yeah.
absolutely, right. That's
Huge.
Move to award the contract to WPI.
Okay, the motion's been made to award the contract as recommended by the Historical Commission to WPI Construction, Inc. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay, you're on.
Thank you.
I will sign this as soon as I get it back over here. Do you want this, you'll want a copy of this, or these are the originals that are, or do we?
Reg can make a copy for me at some time. Yeah, those are the originals. I did not make a copy.
Okay.
So can you update us here and there of how it's going?
I hope it's done very quickly, because this has been going on for 2.5 years. Incidentally, I did call him, and he said that it was something he could schedule, right away.
Oh, and this is like a month to do, or 2 months?
Probably a
He
couple
estimated
days.
3 weeks.
Oh, wonderful.
The whole thing depends on weather. Of course, if it rains, then, they can't take the roof off.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Bob. Okay, moving back then now to other business and announcements, upcoming events and meetings, of course, September 6th, where we will have the all boards meeting, the 20th, 4th, and 18th. And we also have in the action list, item 5 in the agenda, correspondence from the Veterans Agent, which was tabled from August the 9th. Nothing new to report. Okay, so we can continue to pass over that, I would think.
Well, that was the exemption. They were looking for that 8th veteran, right? And we had these assessors in, and they gave him the brochure. There is a program, and we gave him the brochure.
Correct. So we were asking, though, specifically is who owned the house and whose name was the house.
And there was a deed that showed he was part owner, but he has to meet other qualifications under their program.
Right, so it's not really our...
It's not our thing to do.
Yeah. Okay, so then we have Charter Communications. Tim, don't listen. Let's see, right now I have instructed Reggie to get in touch with Bill Hewig, who's our attorney at Hoffman and Page, to ask Charter to go ahead with the installation of the coaxial cable into this building, which would permit us to go live as opposed to recording our meetings. nothing further with respect to Boyle and his daughter Melissa. I've forgotten the last name, married name. Nonetheless, Tom Cohen will be here in October to talk with us about that. And we still have pending our 5-year agreement with Charter to be signed, when and if we come to terms on that. So that's really where we are with Charter. Okay, any questions, ideas about Charter? Timber cutting plan, nothing at this time. New town hall updates. Again, we were able to get these floors, some of them stripped and waxed, and that was due to the school board, and they just got this wonderful little piece of equipment that we loaded onto a trailer up there at the school and brought it down and hired Keith Kleberg, who is the library custodian, as a standby help as well. And then the two guys, Dan and Steve from the school, came in and did these, hey, that plus the drying time. And then Keith did a lot of the buffing as well. So it certainly was a good move forward. And as Mike said, it looked a lot better than when the contractor left them. The grand opening is still scheduled for October the 11th, which will be in between two meetings.
I thought, and I was thinking, we thought we were putting that on a regular.
I thought you got,
I
yes.
thought so too.
So we probably want to adjust that date.
We thought we were putting on.
When the town hall will open so that we'd have more people, as many people as possible.
So, does that get into Columbus Day too?
Actually, I think that's what we tried to pick was the day after Columbus Day, but that turns out to be an off week.
Off week for meetings, so we would either have a meeting then. We could have a meeting then, or we could go to the 4th or the 18th.
I would suggest we go to the 18th.
They want to do it at the same time. Is that so the community is aware more people should show up?
Well, the employees will be here so that people can go through the offices and the offices will
Yeah,
be
oh, that's true. Especially if it's 5 or,
Otherwise, they're going to come in and see us and be done.
yeah.
Yeah.
That would be sad. Okay, so there's been some discussion here about moving this to the 18th. Is there any discussion about that, why we should or should not do that?
What time are you suggesting that, 5 to 8?
Well, that's the thing. So then we would have a select board meeting after that, so we would start later.
Office hours are 6 to 8 for.
Right.
Well, why couldn't we start a select board meeting at 7 o'clock anyway? Encourage some people to come see what, if they're in the building anyway.
Yeah. Go right with that. I know it was your idea. Yeah.
Yeah, for one, I was going to say, and we'll allow that for one night.
One night, I'm fine.
That's it.
Okay, so what I'm hearing then is 18th, select board meeting at 7 o'clock, and that being the grand opening also, contemporaneous?
The senior center will be all done.
Absolutely.
And all the punches will be finished.
So hopeful.
It'll be amazing. It's going to be great.
It's like 45 days away.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. So,
Did we make a motion to that or something?
No.
All right.
well, let's see. Do you want to make a motion to that effect?
I'll make the motion to that effect. What time did we say the hours are going to be?
5 to 8.
5 to 8
Where did that
are the
come from?
office hours.
6 to 8 are office hours.
6. Well, so why don't we make it 6 o'clock? Grand opening 6. We'd have 6 to 7. You're not going to get that many people in. Have ourselves scheduled for a meeting at 7. If we have business to do, we can sit down and do it. If we don't, we can always just postpone the meeting. It's better to have a meeting on the books in case we need it. And we'll be here. It depends on who's going to show up for the dignitaries, what we're going to have to do. But we ought to have a meeting scheduled in case we need it.
So that'd be the 18th is what you're saying?
I'm saying the 18th.
Anybody else
And
over
the grand
here?
opening would just be from 6 to 7?
So it'd be 6 to 8. What time the office is open?
8 o'clock. Oh,
6
we
to-
open at 6 to 8.
6 to 8. So the grand opening 6 to 8. We'll be here anyway, so we have a meeting if we need to at 7. If not, then we're here to mingle.
That is your normal meeting night.
That's a normal meeting night too, so.
So if somebody wanted to show people around, they could do that.
Okay. So then, that's a motion, and we would need a second from over here, the other side of the aisle. Any further discussion then on changing or shifting the grand opening to the 18th of October to be incorporated along with a select board meeting starting at 7 p.m.? Okay, any further discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all right, we're done.
Do we need to approve this flyer, or is this, would we like it?
If you'd like to.
I have no problem with this flyer. There's a flyer attached to you.
What?
To the last few pages of the,
Oh, where's the final take that? Image, what image?
I'm gonna take a picture of the town hall. I'm gonna put the picture here. It's gonna be black and white, but
and then the questions are department workout, compensatory time, I'm assuming for employees, or compensated time.
We eliminated that by making it that night.
Eliminated that, that's great. Reschedule to 10/18 is your suggestion. We're done with that, okay.
So we make sure we have the date and time, right?
yes. Yes.
Okay, so we're skipping back and forth, and now we're going to go back to personnel change forms, which were some of the original things that have just been brought in by the Finance Committee. And I don't know, Mike, do you want to read these out?
The first one is Jennifer Peliquin coming back on August 29th as changing her from temporary to permanent Council on Aging Director. I think it's the same wages, and it's spelled out on the bottom. And the next one is because they split the original Council on Aging Director, Betty Cranston is now coming in on July 1st.
That's actually a resignation.
Resignation. Oh, Betsy Cranston, I'm sorry. Resignation. Is this another one? Yeah, this is the Nancy Ann. Can you help me with that last name? Ogluski, maybe? Ogluwitz? I ain't that, but close. August 29th is going to share the position as an assistant director for Council on Aging. And Regina Sullivan has been as temporary interim, whatever her position is.
Those were done last time.
That one was done last time, so that one, the other three need to be signed. I move to sign all three.
So these have been, I would say, as background, these have all been approved by the department head, by the finance, by the PQB, and recommended by finance. So the only signatures lacking are the select board signatures in each of these. So the motion's been made to approve these three personnel change forms.
Second?
Any further discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, good.
The only person.
Yep, just mine on this one. Okay, so that brings us back while we're bouncing through the agenda here to IBS, I believe, Reggie, is that right?
Yes.
This is a separate item. And it looks as though they've written us quite a letter here talking about their block time service agreement. And my understanding is that this would, presumably, our rates would go down if we do the block time agreement.
But wouldn't we need a bid on this?
You did.
We did the bid, and is this the only bidder?
No, you guys did the bid in, I want to say 2010, and you voted to go with this company.
Oh,
Do that, and they're coming back with a change in the payment form, Michael? They misspelled monitoring, but that's okay, so it's monitoring.
Honestly, I don't, and it's my opinion, but I don't think there is a need for monitoring. And I say that because there's 3 people in this building that are very strong with computers who get the problems fixed prior to calling IBS.
I tend to agree, yeah, because I know you're good, and there's some other folks who really know their way around computers. So basically, the difference there would be $15 an hour. In any case, which means if we have the monitoring, we would pay $15 an hour more than without the monitoring. And monitoring is remote monitoring, which is a service that they do to obviously remotely take a look at our computers. How many hours a year do we use them? It would be 15 times some amount.
I did get a history, but the history was hard to do because of the move.
Right.
So it's hard to determine exactly what we really used.
but here's a question. If they've changed the payment methods, can we now accept a bid
Correct, this has changed the bid. Well, if we don't have,
I don't know whether that, what term did they change?
Well, when you guys voted to accept them, it was a pay-as-you-go. And it was an hourly rate, pay-as-you-go, and the rates are the same. I think they're just changing the way that they're collecting the funds. The only thing, and I didn't read the contract thoroughly through, if you have monies left over, are all the monies going to roll over to the following year, or do they keep a portion of it?
don't know for sure, but we could have Tracy come in and
Yeah.
explain it to us. Want to do that? The annual minimum is 2,500 in any case.
And I believe that's what Diana was working towards, because she did allocate the 2,500 for this budget. And in communicating with Tracy, that's where she was going to go with this contract with the 2,500. But again, is it feasible for the town to do that?
The available balance will be carried forward in full into a renewal agreement. So that's a good deal. Good build up some stash. Okay, so what's the board's wishes here? Do you want to have Tracy come in and explain this, or do you want to,
I don't understand it, so yes.
over here?
Have someone come in?
Yeah. Okay, we'll call Tracy then. Okay, security, nothing at this time. Senior center, we talked about. Punch list, as I mentioned, meeting 2 p.m. And next we have building use policy. For example, we recently had a request to use the town hall during the Celebrate Southampton. And I think it was Michael's your idea, asking to use the senior center, which they did, because that meant they didn't have access to the full building, which made it easier for us with respect to security.
My point is the roof didn't fall on them while they were in there using it as a meeting room. What did it?
You got a point there.
Thank you.
Okay, so but we've talked a little bit about obviously building use policy. There's been a request here from the Girl Scouts to use the meeting room in October for 1 hour and a half. Is that every week? Or
No, this is just a one-time recruitment.
Use that meeting room?
Well, it says meeting room.
Oh, let's put them down there.
Yeah, I think it, in that sense, show that the room is usable. There's a method to that madness.
Nobody's used that.
And if you don't want to move in it, someone else is going to get there first.
Right, I think that's a great idea, so, but you want
Can
to...
they paint?
Finger paint.
Boy Scouts could certainly paint. Dougie and I have offered to paint too, I mean, I paint a lot, so...
So that's an unfinished.
But then we still have to have somebody, how are we getting the building locked up after they're out of here?
They sign up the key, sign.
Oh, so they're taking over responsibility, okay. Okay. But that, when they're there, this door is locked and they can't get into the rest of the building? Is that how it works?
It can be set up that way.
No, they can get into the building.
Because that's a panic bar on that building.
Correct, if you lock this double doors over here going into the hallway, you can.
So they can get into this hallway, but if we lock these 2 doors, they get access to the hallway, but no further.
Correct.
Town clerk's
Mike,
office
what do you
can be
think
locked.
Girl Scouts are gonna do?
It is-
Can they use the bathroom? Are we gonna close?
The bathroom's down here.
You don't
Okay.
have like a conspiracy theory about Girl Scouts.
No, I've supervised Boy Scout meetings, I've supervised
Boy Scouts.
other meetings, and kids, not intentional, get running around and you don't know they're off somewhere doing something, and you don't want them having access to the whole building.
I know.
Because before long, they'd find the cubby holes up in the attic in the mechanical
That's Boy
rooms.
Scouts. Girl Scouts would not go in the camp.
They would just
so
make
we-
cookies.
so we
Except for
have-
that one. You can't make cookies in that one.
We have a draft town hall use policy, though, which is towards the back of the handouts tonight. Thanks, Reggie, for putting this together.
Here we go.
And this kind of limits the groups that can use the building, which I think for now is necessary. Only nonprofits, educational, civic, cultural, environmental, must provide a benefit or service to the citizens of Southampton. Must be a resident of the town.
approval will be up to the select board and/or town administrator.
Does it,
I copied this policy from another community, so.
does it indicate that they're responsible?
Yes, 300,000 in liability too.
For the building itself?
We can request that they have that.
And they know they gotta sign out the key, and
Yeah.
when the Girl Scouts wanna use it?
Sometime in October.
Sometime in October, we don't know.
Well, because they wanted October 4th, but you guys are using this room on October 4th. But if you're using a senior center, we
How
can tie it
about,
to
how about October 18th when open house?
We can do that.
Open house, and we can have more people in here.
Sure, great idea.
Okay.
Pack the house.
Okay.
And they can sell cookies.
Yeah. Oh, you can't sell on town property.
Oh,
can you?
close your eyes.
Just the letter of the law, Michael.
No lemonade either.
Right.
Spiked lemonade.
Isn't that amazing? You can't do that. Okay. All right, so we have two things, specifically the Girl Scouts. Do we want to approve that on October 18th? And then also, do we want to approve this, or do we want to study this, take this home and study the draft?
Yes.
More homework?
More homework. So first thing is the Girl Scouts on October 18th.
I move.
In favor? Aye. Okay.
Can I make a suggestion that we offer them that if they want to have a little refreshment,
I mean, they won't sell them, they'll just give them away.
they can ask for donations.
Public property?
Ask for
So you just set up something that says donations, they don't actually ask.
No, I'm saying you can put a jar on the thing and say donations.
That's true, yeah. Okay, they did that in West Hampton at a concert I was at. The library did that. Yeah, that's a good way around it. Good thinking. Okay.
Better
Okay.
if they put a thing on that every donation should be $1.
Suggestion. Okay. We are now at actually open time for the public, which is in my purview. Is there public back there have any comments, questions?
No, it's nice to see you all here.
Nice to see the public here.
All right. Well, that said, we don't have any other pending items that I'm aware of unless somebody else does. So I'm going to ask for
Game's on.
to resolve.
Ooh,